人又夠鐘，請大家坐埋位。
Okay, I think we have a quorum now, and let's go back to your seat and resume the meeting. If there are no other members who wish to speak, I will. Yes, please press the button if you want to speak. Mr. Yip Kwok Him. Dr. Kenneth Chan should go first. We're still on Ms. Ellen Leung's motion under 39A that the further proceedings of the committee be adjourned immediately. Mr. Yip Kwok Him. Well, originally I didn't want to speak, but having heard members' speeches, I really think I should let the public know the truth about those who claim to be supporting the Innovation and Technology Bureau and those opposing, who they really are. I think we can see that in this adjournment motion. I have to point this out. Some said that the administration is dealing a blow to the dignity of the council. They're not respecting the council. However, I beg to differ. I think what the administration is doing is correct. The administration should reveal the truth of the hypocritic and ugly faces of the opposition camp. They are the ones who filibuster, who are disrespectful to the council, and they should reveal the truth for the public's benefit. And about some remarks made by members, well, they talked about non-truths and they have no respect for the truth. Mr. Peter Zhang very often would be reasonable, but this time he hasn't been reasonable. About the Fisheries Development Loan Fund, it's been discussed for 8 hours. What about this one? We still have a lot of motions to deal with. How can that be passed? Ms. Claudia Mo as well, she is just defending her own, to get her out of her own plight. Well, let's watch the tape, play back the recording, and the public will understand that she is talking nonsense. Let's not waste time. If you oppose C.Y. Leung, you can, but don't waste the time of this council and don't waste public money. Don't waste taxpayers' money. If you go on like this, the people of Hong Kong will remember you. Thank you. Dr. Kenneth Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I believe in the wisdom and the power of observation of the people of Hong Kong. Well, usually at the Finance Committee, for the first round, members will be given 5 minutes, and the second round 3 minutes, third round 2 minutes, and then fourth round 1 minute, so on and so forth. And the administration and the government officials should be able to give logical answers, to rationalize the arrangement, so that members would know how to vote. However, we've seen human audio recorders before, and also answers being repeated, and then chairman would say that the line has to be drawn because all the questions and answers are being repeated. So on this occasion, when a member has moved a motion to adjourn the proceedings, members have put forward their comments, criticisms, and analysis on the setting up of the ITB, so as to let the public understand their justifications for not supporting the setting up of the ITB at this stage. Last time, Mr. Dennis Kwok asked a question, and the Secretary just gave a very brief reply that this is for funding application, and a discussion on policy should not be held here. Does it mean that the administration is depriving us of the right to have a discussion on the justification of the setting up of ITB, and members of the public will not understand the justification of CY Leung's idea to set up the ITB. And as you can see, the whole government now comprises CY Leung supporters, and as you can see, the quality of these government officials, such as a secretary who could just show his business card and take it as his identity card, and all the people around, and Mr. Greg So, secretary, you should explain to us the candidates to be appointed as secretary, so that we know whether ultimately this ITB will become a political reward, whether it is just a waste of taxpayers' money, whether it is a waste of public money. We don't want that. We don't want to waste public money or waste time. And still, CY Leung just wants to bulldoze things through, and he is passing the buck on pan-democrats by making false accusations. If there are no other if there are no other members who wish to speak, I will ask whether the administration would like to respond. No, we don't need to respond. If members have other questions, we'll be happy to take them later. Mr. Alan Leung, you have 1 minute to speak in reply. Thank you, Chairman. I thank Mr. Charles Mok for arranging a group of sectors representatives to meet with the pan-democrats. And we have this issue really close at heart. But I also explained to them that the system in Hong Kong is more important than anything else. If CY Leung could bulldoze things through just in accordance with his own will, without explaining how he could build connections and how he could really promote innovation and technology in Hong Kong, if there aren't any objective indicators for us to assess the Bureau's performance, this is just a political battle. And I appealed to the sector for their understanding. And on this basis, I move this motion to adjourn the proceedings here so as to rectify the situation. I now put the question to you as follows. That this committee agrees to adjourn the meeting now. Will those in favor please raise your hands? Division is claimed. The bell will be rung for 5 minutes.
梁國雄議員啊，正話提你。
Mr. Leung Ho, let me remind you, we can only move a motion under 39 or speak on the motion under 39 once, and you've pressed buttons more than once, so I want you to understand this.
現在開始表決。
We may now cast our votes. Before I announce the result, will members please verify the votes? The poll is now closed. We will now display the results. We have 21 in favor and 35 against the motion. I declare that the motion is not carried. Mr. Leung Yew Chung, your first round, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you. As I said, Chairman, the former Secretary for Civil Service, Mr. Wong Wing Ping, wrote an article strongly objecting to the setting up of this bureau. His main point was that this is tantamount to duplication of the bureaucracy, and he stated several reasons for his objection. First of all, adding another, layer of deputy secretaries to assist the Chief Secretary of Administration is not necessary. It would only add to the duplication. It will only make the bureaucracy more cumbersome and less efficient. On this point, I'd like the administration to respond to Mr. Wong Wing Ping's criticisms and whether or not his arguments are valid or otherwise. Secretary? Well, we are proposing to set up a new bureau, the ITB. We're not creating a new post of Deputy Secretary. Mr. Leung Yew Chung? Well, he said that there is insufficient justification and there is no urgency here, and that the proposal will only is tantamount to duplication. Would you agree with that? And if not, why not? Chairman, why I reiterate that we are not proposing to create the new post of a Deputy Secretary. We are proposing to set up a new bureau. Chairman, whether or not we are talking about a new post of for a new Deputy Secretary, people are now criticizing you for criticizing your proposal as being tantamount to duplication. Would you agree? I think Mr. Leung is repeating the question. We've explained on various occasions the justification for this new bureau. Certainly, this is not an arrangement that is duplicating the existing structure. The new bureau is a new policy bureau for innovation technology. It will have formally a focused strategy for the development of IT. I think the proposal has already been thoroughly explained to the ESC. If Mr. Leung would like to read that, he can go to Annex 9, where he will find the proposed terms of reference for this bureau. Mr. Leung, the word focused, I think I've heard the word before, but the question is why under the existing structure you are not able to be focused. You've not explained that. Does it mean that the officials in the past were not doing anything, they have not been focused on the job? If you use the word focused, could you explain to us why under if you form a new bureau, you can be more focused, and yet you cannot do so under the existing arrangement? Under the CEDP, I am responsible for a wide range of policies issues. If Mr. Leung is not clear about that, I can explain that to you. It includes external trade relations, support for commerce industry, protection of copyrights, promoting external investment, consumer rights, promoting competition, telecommunication, broadcasting, creative industries, innovation technologies, information technology, indecent and obscene articles, ordinance, and also film censorship. My portfolio is very large, and both the trade and the business sector believes that if we could form a new ITB, it can effectively enable us to be more focused on the development of innovation and technology. Thank you. Mr. Leung Yew Chung. If the Secretary's logic is correct, not only do you need to set up an ITB, you should have a separate bureau for each one of your, task. You told us that you have 7 or 8 or even close to 7 major responsibilities. Do you need up separate bureaus before you could be focused on those areas of your work? And if that's the case, why don't you propose to your boss, namely the Chief Executive C.Y. Leung, that for each of your area of work, that he should set up a separate bureau? Chairman, I heard during the debate lots of personal attacks being made. I agree with Mr. Charles Mok that we should actually focus our attention on how we can ensure that there is a good, that what we do is conducive to the development of innovation and technology. Please explain what I have said that is equivalent to a personal attack. Chairman, since the establishment of the SAR government, the structure of the administration has undergone changes many times. In 1997, we have the Commerce and Industry Bureau. In 1998, we set up the Information Technology and Broadcasting Bureau. In 2002, in the middle of 2002, the two bureaus were merged. At that time, our friends from the IT sector asked that we should set up at least an IT bureau, and they finally agreed that at least they were satisfied with having half a bureau. And then in 2007, we set up a CDB and the word technology has been left out. At the beginning, when the SAR government was set up, and under the proposal by Mr. Six Tong, he also invited world-renowned scientist Professor Tin to advise him on how we can develop the information and technology in Hong Kong. And the people of Hong Kong, as well as those from the industry, had great expectations and expected something concrete to be done. In 2001, the Science Park was officially commissioned, and in the Science Park we set up the estuary. We also had the cyber port, and also we set up a $5 billion information technology fund. All these measures are still delivering results now. However, it's still a far cry from having a comprehensive, policy for the development of information technology and creative industries. Within this council, we have many members, and also our friends from the sector have all been working hard to advocate the setting up of an ITB for Hong Kong. Eventually, we now, as I said, when I objected to the proposal for the adjournment debate today, I said that during the current term of the Legislative Council, the 3 steps for the setting of the ITB, we've already completed the 2 important steps. And we're now only talking about the approval of the funding of $30 million. I don't think we should still be debating on whether or not, we shouldn't even have more further discussion or debate on whether or not we should set up the ITB. I do not object to members putting forward the views, but I think we should focus our debate on the $30 million odds of dollars worth of funding, and also the amendment to the relevant ordinance, because all these the other details have been discussed by the ESC. I mentioned just now that it's not that we have not had any results as far as the development of the IT industry is concerned. However, compared with our competitors, we are lagging behind. R&D only has slowly grown to 0.7% of our GDP. Our competitors, like Singapore and South Korea, are already, way ahead of us. And in the mainland, the figure is already 2%. To promote innovative industries and technologies, especially for innovative technologies to be commercialized and turned into services, or to become an industry that will, enter the international market, we need collaboration between the industry and the government and the academia. So the government should actually do more in terms of policy support. We also need the industry to complement, and government should encourage the development of the industry. We need the academics and the universities to come up with the corresponding courses to train our new generation of talents. We need R&D talents. In Hong Kong, for example, in many areas, we are leading the world in certain areas of research. If we could work even harder, we should actually be able to make big improvements. I hope we can be pragmatic for our future and for our younger generation, and that they will be able to leverage or develop the talents in the industry so that our economy can have new impetus for development. I urge members to approve the funding application as soon as possible. Mr. Chung Kok Pan. Well, some members asked a question yesterday saying that there are only 2 departments responsible for information, innovation technology and so on. And well, I understand. Well, the Secretary is saying that there are lots of commercial elements, and that's why that area is still under the portfolio of the CEDB. But I think innovation and technology actually can complement each other. And how can we differentiate what would come? Let's say you have achieved some results. And the results of the research could be commercialized, and if intellectual properties were created. So what is going to be the division of labor? Will the Bureau do something, and by the time we come to commercialization, there's nobody there to ensure that this could be done? So how are we going to deal with the question of interdepartmental collaboration? Thank you for the question. There are many different areas where we can apply technology. I can give you one example. Financial technology, I think, also involve different departments. It is according to our previous experience, different departments can work together on a common area. The development of technology can be applied to the financial industry, the logistics industry, and to businesses as well. So in the past, we need, in areas where there is a need for collaboration, different departments can work together. Secretary, I'm worried that you have too much to be responsible, under your portfolio. I'm worried that you may not be able to manage. It's not that I'm saying you can't cope. What I'm saying that is not being fair to you. So in terms of interdepartmental collaboration, will it really be able to proceed so smoothly? Well, as I said earlier on, my portfolio covers a very wide area. But the development of IT is very important. Taking that away from my portfolio can already help us a lot in terms of the work of the CEDB. It can certainly help us to be more focused on the other areas of our work, especially in the area of broadcasting and telecommunication. There's a lot of work going ahead, so I'd like to thank Mr. Chung for your comment. Also, the last meeting I said that going forward, if we agree that it is more appropriate that creative industries could be put under the portfolio of the ITB, then we're willing to consider that. Mrs. Regina Yip, you have 5 minutes. I hope that we can set up the ITB as soon as possible. In 2007, Donald Zhang, the then CE, changed the CITB to CEDB, and we objected at the time and query as to why the Bureau should be asked to take up the portfolio of technology. Over the years, we've never had a Bureau to take charge of technology, and that is a pity. We really need to catch up, and I therefore support that we should agree that we should set up the IDP as soon as possible. My question for the Secretary says, for basic R&D and applied R&D, I believe they will still be under the charge of two separate bureaus. Basic R&D is the Education Bureau. Applied R&D will come under the new bureau. So how you could coordinate the two bureaus? For basic R&D, they should be applied. And so, what is the role to be played by the new secretary? I would like to ask Ms. Wong to elaborate on the approach that we've taken so far. Well, basic R&D now come under the purview of the Education Bureau. And the source of funding basically will come from the RGC, the Research and Grant Committee. For applied technology, it is under the charge of my department, and it's under the Innovation Technology Fund. Normally, the so-called basic R&D, my department will be responsible for the application, because our predecessor, the predecessor for my department was the technology department. So I don't think the two should be, so clearly defined and separate from each other. And therefore, we work closely with the Education Bureau. And about a year ago, thanks to the RGC, which had agreed that under the system, when scientists or academics have any proposals for application for the R&D, then they can include it in the information, and my department can also give our comments, and hopefully there can be better coordination. When the new bureau is set up, we hope that we can also work closely to ensure that there is, good, there is commercialization of good R&D results.
Mr. Albert Chan, first round, please. I hope you can hear what I said. I'm losing my voice. What Mr. Chung Kwok Pun asked was the purpose of setting up ITB. My feeling was that the secretary was really excited at removing the innovation and technology component from CDB. It seems that he's very scared to take up the work. In normal circumstances, a secretary should be saddened to have part of its work removed. So, but from what I can see, you seem to be really excited. And as I mentioned in previous meetings, at that time, Mr. Paul Chen knew nothing about planning and lands, but he has gradually picked up the knowledge. Secretary, your learning ability seemed to be worse than Mr. Paul Chen. You have picked up various work, but I have not seen any improvement in terms of your knowledge of innovation and technology, and your outdated mentality is certainly not a good fit for Hong Kong. And CY Leung has no option but to please DAB, because DAB is now a major power. This is something we cannot change, and we cannot expose CY Leung. So, and we are spending tens of millions of money in public money, and you can save us a lot of money simply by dishing out less name cards. And I have a question for Ms. Wong. I've known her for more than 20 years. I know she's certainly capable in terms of administration and coordination. I'd like to know whether the government has ever asked you to do something beyond your reach in terms of innovation and technology. There's only so much one person can do, including myself. I've dedicated myself to work over the years, and I'd like to respond whether ITB is redundant. Can you address my question instead of others' questions, please? I'm a department head. In simple terms, did the government ever request you to do anything you cannot do? I've always done my best, and as a head of department, but you are already the highest official in charge of innovation and technology promotion. You are fully in charge of innovation and as well as R&D, right? I'm in charge, but I'm not the highest responsible official because I have to report to the secretary and PS. We have a chief commissioner. We have a government chief information officer as well. For ICB, in the past 2 years, has the government ever asked you to do anything you cannot accomplish? If we have a bureau to oversee innovation and technology, it can better facilitate our work. I'd like to give an example on the more widespread use of the internet or the use of big data. If we have a dedicated bureau or ITB, I'm sure they will help. Israel doesn't have a dedicated bureau, but yet Israel's IT development is really top of the world. Have you ever learned from the case of Israel? We have learned from different countries. Did you learn from Israel in particular? They don't have a dedicated bureau, but yes, the IT is development is outstanding, Ms. Sidho. We talked about innovation and creativity. Innovation has 3 aspects. Individually speaking, I don't see how the government is really encouraging individual creativity because there are a lot of constraints to that restricts freedom of speech. And Mrs. Regina Ip asked about any possible redundancy with the UGC and RGC, and the Central Policy Unit has a fund allocation for university research. And I agree with providing dedicated funds for research because if we only have a single fund, in case of bias, our academics will not be able to secure any funding. So I agree with having multiple funds available. But we can see that the products, the research, the products of local researchers have not materialized into actual products. And this is not something the Secretary, Mr. So, is responsible for. And even if we have a new bureau, this is a problem we cannot solve. You said you want to promote innovation and technology, but spending tens of millions of dollars in a new bureau every year is not the solution. So my question for the administration is that, for instance, the PolyU invented electric vehicles. Why did they have to hand over their products to BYD instead of creating a production line in Hong Kong so that the local students can find a way out, and as such they can create positions in sales and marketing? This is something to do with the land policy of the government, and I consulted the PolyU and they said in order to come up with a production line for this vehicle, they only need a land lots of the size of a football field. So I don't see how creating ITB can influence the government's policy. As such, even if we come up with results from R&D, we still cannot or facilitate a whole new industry or local employment opportunities. So can you tell us why couldn't the product invented by PolyU become a new industry of Hong Kong? I do not wish to launch personal attacks. Perhaps Ms. Ho is not Secretary. I did not insult you. You should make yourself very clear, because members could not possibly attend all committee meetings. Would you, Ms. Hoke, would you allow him to respond? For instance, when we talked about women's policy, you wouldn't be an expert either. Apart from merchandising, we focus a lot on manpower training and their inventions. And over the course of commercializing, their results could be purchased or applied by various organizations. The R&D results could be purchased or applied by commercial organizations, and this is something very natural. We hope that the results of our R&D efforts can be applied to Hong Kong as well as other countries. This would facilitate IP trading as well as the training of talents in innovation and technology. I think the Secretary didn't hear my question very well. The point was to create economic activities and facilitate local employment. All along, the government has been saying that the development of IT can facilitate employment. Why didn't you address my question directly? I attended an opening ceremony yesterday on co-working space, and the seminar was organized by Tsinghua University, and they agree that this is our situation is we are on plan to achieve commercialization. The Secretary said this is a high-level cross-bureau collaboration, but according to what he just said, of course we understand that the ITB has to do a lot in terms of commercialization and converting R&D results into actual products. So in terms of commercialization, it should fall under the scope of the CDB. If the Bureau is in charge of so many things, then naturally you should be the chief coordinator. And if someone comes up with a new product, they should facilitate the CDB if they wish to have their products commercialized. And if the ITB wishes to conduct commercialization, how can they work together with CDB? Do they have to work with CDB before they can achieve commercialization? If this is the case, then we have to go through another layer of cross-bureau collaboration, whereas right now this can be done by a single bureau. Secretary, you talked about your different scopes of work. Can you tell us that after the ITB is created, how many percentage of your existing work would be transferred to the new bureau? I'd just like to know whether your work burden can be eased by the creation of this bureau. please be reminded that the new secretary will receive a comparable salary as yours. So so the weights of your works should be similar as well. When I address other questions, I cited other examples. For example, for technology, technology might be related to logistics and finance. Of course, we do require cross-bureau collaboration, and the ITB and the ITC has helped in commercializing our products. So this is the answer to the first question by Mr. Wu. Thank you, Chairman. I think it's very hard to draw a very clear line. But in terms of commercialization, we are talking about realizing the results of research and development and creating value along the supply chain. And even with the new bureau, I think this is still under my portfolio at the ITC. And at the CNI panel, I'm very happy to receive support from members. And we have received supports on running trials for new products at government departments. So this is a natural first step before total commercialization. And if the products are successful in government departments, companies would be more willing to adopt them. In order to further promote the products, if we want to promote the trading of such products, they would still fall under the scope of Mr. Gregory So. And it does require cross-bureau collaboration, but commercialization would still fall under the ITC. And my second question was on the percentage of work transferred from the CDB to ITB. I oversee many scopes of work, so I cannot really quantify the scopes of work. I've spent a lot of time on developing innovation and technology, and I'm certainly not excited to have my to see some of my work being transferred. I hope that we have a new bureau dedicated to these scopes of work. Mr. Martin Liao, Chairman, I've always stressed that Hong Kong's economic development is too narrow, and our IT industries cannot diversify, and there's a lack of support to these industries, and as a whole we lack innovation or an innovative spirit. This is a long-standing problem, and I've mentioned them since 3 years ago. And the new bureau recognizes the importance of policies for innovation and technology. I think people should complain, why didn't the government do it earlier? But right now, on the other hand, a lot of members are trying to hamper the government's progress. We are actually hurting ourselves, hurting our own interests. It's our job as legislators to raise questions. But if some members want to hamper this project altogether, it's another issue. I think Mr. Charles Mok understands what it feels to be the victim of filibustering. Hong Kong is a very small city, so which makes it an ideal place to develop IT. We live in an age of information overflow, and we should have a dedicated bureau to coordinate IT policy. Right now, Hong Kong's IT development is rather fragmented and there's no centralized policy, and as such we fail to move with the times. Having a unified policy is absolutely essential for the long-term development of IT. When we look at other countries, they have invested a lot of resources on IT, and they have dedicated a lot of resources. And in Singapore, by the early 1990s, they set up an Innovation Technology Bureau, and in South Korea, they restructured their IT Bureau in 2013. When you look at Hong Kong, plans to establish ITB have faced lots of challenges. If we even fail to establish an ITB, how can we have an IT policy? As an established economy, there's little room to expand. And a lot of people have warned that Hong Kong is facing a red light, and setting up an ITB would benefit Hong Kong's development as well as providing upward mobility to youngsters. If we are to have new industries, we must have new policies as well as financial support, policy support, and manpower arrangements. We need a holistic and comprehensive policy. And my question for the administration is, if the ITB can be established, how much time do we need before we can establish a holistic and complete innovation and technology policy?
Secretary. Chairman, it's quite difficult to answer this question because after this bureau is set up, we need the new secretary to have an overview of the work under his portfolio. So I can't tell at this stage how much time will be needed, but I think the new secretary will act as soon as possible. We all understand that time is tight, but I think he will work on the policies as soon as possible. Any ideas at the moment? Any preliminary ideas at the moment in your bureau? Chairman, we don't have any preliminary ideas on the time frame for policy formulation. I think we should leave this decision to the new secretary. Mr. Gary Fan, first round, 5 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Well, Mr. Greg So, you don't really know the direction of this new bureau to be set up. That's why you couldn't answer Mr. Martinel's question. In 2007, before the government restructuring, we used to have the CIB bureau, and the portfolio was under that bureau. Later, we had this CEDB, so instead of having information technology or innovation technology under the CITB, it's under your portfolio now. For permanent secretary and other posts, these are just administrative changes. For IT Commission and the OGCIO, they will be accountable to another secretary instead of Mr. Greg So. So my question is this: how can the setting up of a new bureau bring changes in terms of breadth and depth, as you put it in the paper? Well, just now Mr. Fan referred to my answer to Mr. Martinel's question. He said that I am not clear, I have no planning, but that's not true. After setting up the new bureau, the new secretary will report to duty, and he or she will be overseeing the policy formulation aspect. It's not convenient, or it's not appropriate for me to make any comment on the time frame for policy formulation, and I defer to PS to say more on the administrative structure. PS. Well, of course, with the setting up of the new bureau, there will be permanent secretary along with a team of civil servants in the bureau. Well, as for the change in depth after the new bureau is set up, secretary and myself currently don't just deal with innovation and technology. If we have a dedicated team on innovation and technology, of course there'll be a greater effort coming from the bureau. Does it mean that we used to have that in the past and there is no need for us to make a change now? Well, of course, there is a policy on IT at the moment, but if we want to widen and deepen our development on IT, and if IT development is what we must aim for in future, then wouldn't a dedicated post and a dedicated bureau that coordinate work be better? That's why we need a new secretary and a new team in the bureau. Of course, the new secretary will be able to have a deeper conversation, communication with the sector, because the new secretary will focus on this aspect of the portfolio. So definitely he or she will have more time on it. Well, this is a city with 7 million population. In terms of our size and scale, in terms of government policies, our government structure, well, our structure is not really small in scale, so you can't really explain very fully, because I don't have much confidence in any bureau under CY Leung's administration. Because of his poor track record, Mr. Eddie Ng becomes Secretary for Education, and Professor Anthony Zhang as Secretary for Transport and Housing, and Paul Chan, who also took part in subdividing flats, becomes Secretary for Development. How can you reassure me that the IT Bureau will be able to do its work instead of considering increasing the establishment under ITC first? Secretary, I think when appointing the new Bureau Director, the Chief Executive will make appropriate considerations to the situation. Mr. Michael Tian, first round, 5 minutes. Chairman. Well, I've tried to put up with it long enough. I'm not here to ask questions. I just want to share with you my observations. Over the past few days, judging from the comments made by the pandemocrats, it seems that we all share the same goal. We all want to promote the development of innovation technology. Ms. Emily Lau says that she supports strongly the work of the ITC. So what is our difference here? There is only one reason, it seems. It seems that whatever CY Leung wants to do, there is always white terror and there must be a conspiracy behind. And the pandemocrats always say that opposing the setting up of ITB doesn't mean they do not support IT development. However, school principals, scholars all agree that the setting up of the IT Bureau is the most effective way in promoting collaboration between the government, business, industrial sector and the academic sector. Around the world, there are similar bureaus or ministries, but not so in Hong Kong. When Mr. Albert Ho ran in the CE election, he said that an IT Bureau should be set up to coordinate the development of innovation technology as a new industry in Hong Kong. So that was what he said when he ran for election. Now he asked whether the government has no time to formulate policies in this regard under the CDB. Comparing to the THB or the Food and Health Bureau, there is much spare time for Secretary to work on the area. Why is it that we need a new bureau on IT, causing an imbalance, administratively speaking? Since Mr. Albert Ho is here, I'd like to ask you. Well, in your election manifesto, you agree that the IT Bureau should be set up. But now, you've changed. You are saying that Mr. Greg So could do all his work and there is no need to have a separate bureau for the purpose. When Ms. Claudia Mo spoke, she said that the IT Bureau aims at controlling free speech. And Mr. Charles Mock actually explained that this will really help a more open and free environment for freedom of expression. Now, of course, livelihood issues are also very important. So according to her logic, the IT Bureau should never be set up. Now, according to Mr. Charles Mock, he said that he's been waiting for over 10 years for the setting up of this IT-related bureau. So they could have all the say, but actually what they want is to pick on C.Y. Leung. And if they succeed, ultimately they will accuse the government of not doing anything. And the struggle will just continue. I have 1 minute left. And I would just want to say something. My daughter just got married and she gave birth to a daughter, and I have become a grandfather. And my daughter, along with her husband, would like to have a startup company in Hong Kong. And we visited San Francisco, and then I told her that there will be an ITB set up in Hong Kong. It's been in the pipeline for so many years. And why don't you stay in Hong Kong? Don't take the granddaughter away. And she said, oh, Father, don't take me as a fool. I've been watching TV and about the struggle for the setting up of the ITB. What's the purpose of the bickering? I don't know when the ITB will be set up, and I'd rather go to San Francisco where there are ample opportunities. And in fact, our whole family have already left Hong Kong, and I don't know how many young people nowadays have the same feeling in Hong Kong. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. Well, Mr. Greg So, you could give any explanation you want, but about the selling of the invention of electric vehicles to BYD, it's because we don't have land for the supply chain. About Airport Authority, well, I asked why couldn't they buy the vehicles? They said because the two vehicles are just too slow, and I really don't know to whom BYD could sell the vehicles. Do we need a bureau just for the sale of technology? You have a lot of committees and commissions. CH Tong already set up a commission. About the ministry in Singapore, again, you're telling lies. The ministry was set up in 1959 in charge of culture and news media. And Singapore then set up an authority, and it wasn't until 2012 that they took charge of that portfolio as well. So what's the point of raising this example? Who raised this example? Who? I asked whether this ministry exists, and somebody answered yes. Well, in fact, Singapore didn't set up a new ministry. In fact, it's an authority that evolved from communication and information, communication, art, etc. Well, taking Singapore as an example, you could just have the work subsumed under the existing bureau, but not. But CY Leung won't agree. Just like Hong Kong TV, the scandal over the issuing of license, it dragged on for so long. CY Leung did something poorly, and you just help him cover up. So it's just a waste of time. CY Leung has already exhausted you, and our ATV staff being paid at the moment. Well, at that time, there were already criticisms that ATV couldn't go on, and are you really having too much time on your hand? Well, let's talk about Singapore. Let's talk about history. They already had this authority. We have one too. Why can't it be subsumed under your bureau, Mr. Greg So? Why do we need another bureau? Is it because of your incompetence or CY Leung's? Just like in Taiwan, there was a ministry set up quite late. And you need to tell Hong Kong people very clearly. I asked you before, did the New York municipal government set up a ministry? No, something like a department only. Is it just a department, right? Why can't you set up a department instead? In 1997, C.H. Tung already set up something. CY Leung set up two. There are already too many committees and commissions. In 1997, the ITC was set up, and then Donald Tsang set up the Economic Opportunities Commission, and then more committees and commissions set up. Dr. Priscilla Leung. Well, last term, members supported the proposal, and this term, members tried hard to overturn it. Well, I've also heard a lot from my university colleagues. I think it's just a waste of breath that we discuss here. It's really a wonder how they could make all these frivolous remarks repeatedly. It's a waste of time, and this is the public's perception on us. Some colleagues just now asked why it shouldn't be subsumed under the bureau, or why shouldn't a department be set up. I think if we go on asking questions like that, we won't be able to do anything. If we are always afraid of anything, if we are always skeptical, we really shouldn't adopt such a mindset. I understand we have great differences as far as the constitutional development is concerned. However, if we don't take a step in constitutional development as well as the ITB, and in fact, I've been reminded by university colleagues, and I'm mindful of that you may not succeed, but this is the procedure we have to go through. Will you allow them to have a go even if they don't have experience? Well, we've been talking about a youth startup fund for years, and this time we're making a step. And then already there are criticisms that young people may fail, may lose all the money, but we need to give them a chance, even if they will fail. About collaboration between government, business, and the research sector. Well, even in the community, there may be new inventions, and the academics really want this ITB. in my own faculty, in the city university, we may not have new inventions and new research outcome, but I understand many other departments have won international awards. Sid Ho asked why the product didn't succeed. Perhaps it's because we need to research further into the area and see how we could make our products a success. We really hope that with dedicated research effort, we could commercialize an R&D result. So I'd say we let them try. And my R&D colleagues in the university would like to take this step as well. No one could guarantee success, of course. I will monitor your work, and please do not repeat the mindset of civil servants in treating the ITB. There must be collaboration. Even the opposition camp could offer fresh ideas on how to improve the system instead of subsuming the work under Secretary's portfolio or setting up a department, because you can always oppose anything he does. It's really meaningless. For those who really care about this issue, they will just laugh at us for focusing our effort on these questions. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, second round, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Yesterday, I heard Regina's email account was hacked, and I really upset when I heard that several $100,000 were stolen from her account. And fortunately, she was able to have the money back, and this really showed the work that we have been doing in combating cybercrime. Well, we're in the era of big data. There are more and more cybercrimes, and everyone could be a victim. We heard about fraud cases involving the use of an app Line, about the purchase of game points, and also other cases of naked chat and email scams causing great losses. Cybersecurity is important to everyone in Hong Kong as well as enterprises in Hong Kong. So my question is this. For the proposed ITB, has it anything to do with information security and cybersecurity, and how much money will be spent, how many experts will be engaged in resolving these issues? And for the so-called experts, will they support the police in combating cybercrime to protect our safety?
Thank you, Mr. Lam, for the question. Actually, the Office of the ITC and the police have been working closely together to step up our security on the Internet. And S3 has also have some development in this area. I'll ask Mr. Lam to elaborate on the details. And then the Commissioner can also supplement. Thank you. In terms of tackling computer crime and protecting the security and the safety of information, I think we've done a lot of work. Recently, we've launched a website regarding cyber safety, and that website would enable members of the public to check their own computers and their handheld devices as whether or not they are secured. And if they have any problems, we can suggest to them that they can enhance their security. We also at the same time work closely with the police and the security industry. We organize many seminars and to enable the public to heighten their awareness for security. Recently, on television and on the radio, we've stepped up our publicity so that the public will understand about the importance of information security. Regarding the development of talent, we also attach a lot of importance to that. Internally, within the government, we have required civil servants to undergo training so that they will be able to acquire professional qualifications. and that they will be able to protect the security of the government's websites. At the same time, we work closely with the police. The police again has also stepped up cracking down on computer crimes. So we'll continue to tackle computer crime and help the public to enhance the safety. So the funding requested will include the amount required to hire more talents. Chairman, it is already within our current portfolio that we do the work in regarding that we also would also include cybersecurity. It's part of our portfolio. Fernando Zhang, the SAR government has already committed a lot of resources on creative innovative industries. In 1997, we set up the Innovation Technology Fund, and last year the budget for the ITC has been increased by $900 million. That's a 30% increase in funding for last year alone. Now it is proposed that we set up this new bureau. So how had we performed in the past? The audit report number 61 published in October 30 of 2013 regarding the ITC and the Innovation Technology Fund. One of its conclusions was that the ITC had not conducted a comprehensive review of the fund, or it was until November 2013, 14 years after the fund has been in operation, that the Director of Audit considered it necessary for the ITC to conduct a comprehensive review on that fund. With the complaint by the Audit Commission, you only started the review last year. That report also found out that we have, of the 5 estuary, and that we are funding the innovative technology projects. Originally, they have 25 projects. 13 had not yet started. For the remaining 12 projects, they have evaluated the technological breakthrough and whether or not they have been successfully commercialized. And it found out that of the 12 projects, none of them had achieved any results. Despite that, of the 12 projects, 12 was rated by the ITC as successful. I also like to quote from the Director of Audit report. The Director of Audit has assessed the performance of the estuaries and found out that the performance of these centers compared with the prediction made by the department in seeking funding allocation, he found that there was a big discrepancy. You are now applying for funding to set up the ITB. In 2005, 2009, and 2012, you have respectively obtained funding and allocated them to the estuaries, totaling $900 million. 2 years ago, the Director of Audit's report found out that you've not really delivered anything, and your performance was really, far inferior to what you have promised. We're not making these things up, Chairman. I have studied the Director of Audit's report. Now, if you want to apply for funding and you say you want to be more focused and you want more resources to do a good job, however, given your past track record, how can we have the confidence? What mechanism is there? What improvements will you make to ensure that all the problems identified by the Director of Audit's report, which I have quoted, and all the instances of the wastage of public funds can be avoided? Ms. Wong? Thank you. The members refer to the Director of Audit's report. We welcome the valuable suggestions made by the Director of Audit. They have assessed our performance over the years and pointed out areas where we needed to make improvements. However, basically the problems are identified. but we are steadily making improvements. The honourable member had mentioned the comprehensive review of the Innovative Technology Fund. Indeed, we have conducted such a review. And at the C&I panel last month, we had actually reported fully to that panel because the coverage of that review is very wide. And certain proposals for improvements were made in the review. In English, it's called, regarding the mechanism for improvement. I think we are already in the course of making those improvements. And from time to time, we also report back to the Director of Audit. Regarding estuaries, every year in June, we will submit a report to the panel every year in June. For the past 2 years, according to our report, those estuaries have made improvements. For example, subsidy for industries will steadily step up our efforts because it represents the industry's confidence in us, and that the percentage has been increased to 20%. There are also new projects which have been put into application for welfare. Director, how long will you take to finish, answer the rest of the questions? Albert Ho, 4 minutes. Chairman. Mr. Michael Teen had diligently looked up my manifesto for a couple of years ago when I contested the election, and said in that manifesto I said I agree to the setting up of the ITB. His assistant probably gave him, refer him to a few paragraphs in my manifesto. I don't think he had read my whole manifesto. Well, actually, I said that if we want to make some improvements, we need to make improvements in different areas. And I also make suggestions regarding the Cultural Bureau as well. You cannot take certain things out of context from my manifesto and ignore the rest of my manifesto. Right now, the whole political situation hinges on the relationship between the administration and the legislature, and the question of how much trust we have in the government, and whether or not we should, under the circumstances, allow the administration to change the structure and the system any further, since it only has a year or so left. And also the question is whether or not the administration has rationalized the comparability of the portfolios among the different bureaus. Or is it the case that this particular bureau is overloaded with too much work? It is true that we all agree that we should step up our effort in developing information and IT. But does it mean that we can solve the problem by setting up a new bureau? And many people are not convinced. And they would like to know why broadcasting is taken out of the IT portfolio. If I ask the director, the secretary, the same question, he would say that he would have already repeated the answer many times. But despite the many answers that he had given, he has not answered the question. That is, why is it your policy is so irrational? Under the circumstances, it is only natural that we have so many questions. Dr. Fernando Cheung asked about the specific work that you have done, and it is true that we have no confidence in you because you've not resolved the problems. In summary, after CY Leung has completed more than half of his term, originally proposed that we should have 4 or 5 secretaries, 14 or 13 bureaus. He was not able to deliver that. And now all of a sudden he is proposing to set up such a new bureau. Many people have the impression that he already has some candidates in mind to fill that post. But when we try to ask for more details, Mr. So is saying that there's nothing he could tell us. So do you have a plan? Do you have a candidate in mind? We don't know, and you're reluctant to tell. So under the circumstances, to ask us to support your proposal is really, questionable. My biggest doubt is my question is that if you hive off the broadcasting from the portfolio, this is not acceptable. I only have 30 seconds left. Mr. So, would you consider answer my question once again? Is it definitely your plan to take broadcasting out of the portfolio of this new bureau? I've answered the question many times. The design here is that this bureau can focus on the strategy and spearheading the development of information technology and promoting the research and application of research. As I said many times today already, telecom, communication and broadcasting does not necessarily have to be put under the portfolio of the ITB. For telecommunication and broadcasting, we need to further rationalize our policies, and that we will leave under the CEDB. It's not really necessary to include that as part of the work for the promotion of innovative technologies. We want to give it a free hand, and I think it is also this consensus of the industry and the business sector that we should have, have the ITB set up. Alan Leong. During my first round, I was giving the opportunity for the secretary to give me a sincere answer. I asked him how he can, dispel or the image that CY Leung is using this as a pretext to reward his supporters and offering the post of the head of the bureau to his supporters. And I asked him how you can coordinate the effort of different bureaus and promote the commercialization of the research results and so on. We've heard that Yang Wai-hung will be the secretary, Lau Ming-wai will be the deputy secretary. For these candidates, I'd like to know based on what criteria will they be appointed, and also that they will be able to effectively implement the blueprint for the ITB. Chairman, Mr. So, it's 3 minutes. Chairman, whether or not there is any duplication or whether or not we need to set up the new bureau, I think we've already had repeated discussion and arrived at a consensus. There is a consensus within the industry and also the business sector. This is also a livelihood issue, and I don't want to drag on with the debate here. But in terms of our portfolio, and if you refer to Annex 9 to the paper for the ESC, we have clearly explained the portfolio of the new bureau. I asked Mr. whether or not there are any objective criteria or whether you have any key performance indicators so that we'll be able to objectively, make an evaluation. But in terms of information technology and also in our Digital 21 strategy, it is our digital technology strategy. There are some benchmarks that we would follow. So in different areas, there would be appropriate indicators. But if you ask me how the new the head of the new bureau will lay down and set out a policy and so on, of course I can't answer the question. You have to give the new secretary room so that he can review decide what his plans would be. To ask me to answer your question now is actually asking for the impossible. You said you allow me 3 minutes to answer your question. You're putting the cart before the horse, and you're deliberately picking quarrel. You're now asking us to give you $22 million now, and now, well, I think the portfolio has been clearly outlined in the paper. If there's if you find that there are any problems there, I don't find any KPIs in that document. And regarding the candidate for those posts, normally the government will only appoint people based on the merit of the candidates. Of course, the CE will give it due careful consideration before he would make the appointment. Well, I only have 50 seconds left, so I'd like to ask, on what basis will you evaluate such talents? Would you require someone who has achievements or track records in technology, or someone who has already experience in a trade, or someone who has a build-up connection with the information technology platform overseas? Well, appointing people based on the merit will depend on the work, on whether or not the person has the caliber to lead the policy bureau to undertake such duties, and that is what I mean by appointing people based on the merit. Well, that we know That's why we have the impression now that we are now funding money, approving funding which may be spent in vain. It is not. We wouldn't be surprised that COI Leung is actually only using this as a pretext to reward his supporters. Miss Priscilla Leung appealed to members that we should give them a chance to give it a try, and that nothing could be guaranteed, and that if we don't allow them to take the first step, then we'll not be able to ensure, that we can have development for the industry, and that we should be bold enough to experiment. It's not that we can't experiment. However, in the course of making the experiment, you must have a direction. You must have certain yardsticks to follow. Just now, we asked the question whether there is any duplication, and also after the Bureau has been set up, what is going to be the division of labor between the Bureau and the department. And the director said, when the Bureau is being set up, you can be focused. You keep repeating the word focused and nothing else. And we asked the director or the commissioner the question. She said that with more manpower resources, you have more time and more opportunities to liaise with the industry and the academia. But I think I'd like to know why, under the current structure, you can't do those things, and they've not answered the question. Today, we want the Secretary and the Commissioner to convince us. We want to be accountable to the public. But whether it's Dr. Fernando Cheung or Mr. Alan Leung, when they asked the questions, the Secretary said, right, you can repeat your questions, but already given me the answers before. So you're not using this opportunity to lobby members of this committee. You're not explaining to the public how the new Bureau, once it is set up, is different from the existing system. Well, this is an opportunity for you to explain your policies. Take the Commissioner, for example. You said that with the establishment of the new Bureau, there could be more manpower to enable you to do your work more efficiently. But why is it then that you can't increase the manpower, the establishment of your commission? Why do we need to set up a Bureau? A Bureau shouldn't be set up for the purpose of communicating with the industry. The Bureau's function is to formulate policies. So I'm not convinced at all. Not to mention whether or not we are objecting for the sake of objection. Never mind our motives. But you should do your part. You should make use of this opportunity and forum to explain to us and to lobby us. So could you do this once again? I'm again quoting Joseph Wong. He kept saying that to further promote the innovative technology for Hong Kong, the government first of all has to first of all conduct a comprehensive review of its existing policies and measures to find out where we have come short.
Dr. Fernando Cheung quoted the audit reports, and he pointed out the inadequacies. What were the roots of the problems in the past? Did you ever conduct any investigations? Can you promise that they would not be repeated in the future, and as well as the corresponding reasons? I hope we can give both of them some time to tell us that after the creation of ITB, what will be the key differences and how they can develop ITB. You only have 10 seconds left, but I don't see I don't see how they can answer the question. Can I wait for the next round? Next, Ms. Claudia Mo, second round, 4 minutes, please. We are talking about innovation and technology, and you said you would encourage people to be bold, but we are spending 22 million in public money every year. I don't even want to talk about the overspending with West Kowloon and Hong Kong Dry Macau Bridge, etc. My question is, why does your scope of work not include creative industries? Right now, everybody is using smartphones, but yes, you're not including them under telecommunications. And when you think about online crimes, they are rather relevant. It depends on how you look at it. For instance, the dishonest use of computers, it has to do with technology. So your approach is rather confusing. I think the secretary is very smart, and for certain members like Leung Yu-chung or Sid Ho, when they ask questions, you got angry, and you accused these members of personally assaulting them, and you appeared really arrogant. I hope that that's not your intention, but that's the effect. And in response to Martin Liao and Alan Leung, the gist of what you said was that tomorrow will be all nice and rosy. But when you're asked to elaborate on your direction and policy, you could not say anything. You didn't say anything. And you said something along the lines of, let's wait until the new secretary is on board. But we are talking about policy and system, not an individual. So that, do you mean that the new secretary will be able to decide everything? This is ridiculous. We are not even asking for timelines. We are just asking for general directions. The administration or the Hong Kong government is really amazing. Whenever senior officials leave the administration, they would say something very honest. And an ex-official from the CITB criticized the government of being bureaucratic, and they wasted a lot of money, and that person also accuse the government of being very bureaucratic, much like the approach of Xi Jinping. And you wanted to have your funding approvals passed, and just now Alan Leung asked how you can evaluate the performance or the credentials of the secretary. You could only mutter some gibberish. I think you know it very well that you have no blueprint and no policy. You are just following your boss's instructions. Mr. Frederick Fung, 5 minutes, please. Sorry about my voice. When we look at Annex 1 on the organizational chart for the new secretary, and the chart shows the scope of work for the secretary, and some areas of work were divided or were taken from the existing bureau, and your workload was rather manageable already, but with the new bureau, you will take an even lesser workload. When you look at LWB, THB, or any other bureaus, I'm sure all other bureaus are far busier than the proposed Innovation and Technology Bureau. I have a question for the Secretary. According to this organization chart, compared with the workload before and after the establishment of ITB, do you think the workload of CDB will be higher or lower than ITB? And compared with THB, LWB, etc., how does the workload of the ITB stand up to? A member asked whether the workload can be quantified. Our workload for sure is very heavy at the moment, and with a dedicated bureau, we can focus our energies on different things. And frankly speaking, the workload of ITB is lower than that of CDB, but nevertheless, this is a start. We hope that with this bureau, we can further develop the innovation and technology traits, and as such, the workload of the ITB will also increase. I'd also like you to compare your workload with the LWB and THB. Your workload is still very, very light compared with those bureaus. With the number of staff is relatively lower because we are just starting, and in the future we will adjust the establishment as necessary. Do you have any plans for adjusting the establishment? Hopefully we can have a flexible, we can have more flexible arrangements at the beginning, and after some time we will see whether any reviews are necessary. If you don't know anything yet, why are you proposing a new bureau? We have considered a lot of aspects, and if necessary, we will go ahead with reviews. You said you have plans and designs, but you have no vision. You don't know who the new secretary will be. We have a holistic vision on the long-term development of the ITB. And as such, we want to give them more room and resources for future development. I'm not repeating it myself, it's the secretary who is repeating himself. Right from the start, we asked what the directions and vision of this of the bureau will be, and you cannot tell us who will be the secretary. And now you're asking us to accept your proposal. Do you think we are fools? I've made myself very clear of the vision and scopes of work of this bureau, and the chief executive will appoint a secretary as appropriate. Will the secretary revise the organization chart so that it will take up more considerable and more reasonable workload? The entire trade has seen a vision. I really don't understand your point. Or do you not want to agree that there has been an agreed vision? The government said they are. You are saying that you have to wait for the new secretary, and then that's it doesn't make sense. As we mentioned, a decision will be made after due consideration. Mr. James Toh, I'm very concerned or interested in security-related information technology. The Security Bureau announced an amendment to the Communications Interception Ordinance. And there have been concerns in the public recently that with new communication apps on smartphones, for example, WeChat or WhatsApp, and some people say that in some countries there are laws to request service providers to keep their records for a specific number of years. So in case of police checks, these records would have to be retained. I'm not sure where these areas of work are taken taken up by the Security Bureau. Perhaps Mr. So would have a proper division of work with the Security Bureau. So right now, in terms of such security issues, would there be any changes in the division of work when the ITB is established? What you mentioned fall under the Security Bureau. And the aim of setting up this new bureau would be to provide technical or IT support to these security issues. But the securities but the issues you mentioned would fall under the Security Bureau. Let me cite an example. The retention of records to facilitate law enforcement officers. Would this fall under, would this be part of the security policy or part of your IT policy? This issue doesn't fall, this issue would not fall under the scope of our bureau or ITB. I'd just like to make this very clear. If you ask the trade to retain their records for a certain number of years, it would lead to substantial costs as well as relevant privileges and rights. Would all these be grouped as security issues? This is rather it is rather strange if the ITB has nothing to do with these issues. As far as ordinances are concerned, there is a legislative process and a consultation process, so the public can rest assured. For the product labeling ordinance, for example, records would have to be retained depending on the circumstances. What you mentioned fall under the Security Bureau. I want to make this clear. For instance, for e-commerce, the interfacing of technology and e-commerce in the future would e-commerce fall under CDB or ITB? If you're referring to electronics transaction ordinance, it would be taken up by the new bureau. When the motion was passed at the Legislative Council, this scope of work will be transferred to the new bureau. You said e-commerce would be transferred to the new bureau. You may continue in the next round. Mr. Ray Chen, second round, 4 minutes, please. Chairman, I want to ask the Secretary again about the organizational restructuring. He merely said the existing structure is the best. I propose different organizational models, and I would like the Secretary to explain why your proposal is the best. Of course, you cannot give a simple answer, but you can reply by writing. I've heard your question many times. You have 3 options, right? Can you give me some time to respond? I don't expect you to answer, to give an answer now. Solution A is to just to change the name of the bureau, and B is to have a new bureau and to only retain the secretary, under secretary, and political assistants. And option C, if we can have an extra permanent secretary to take care of this new strand of work. Ms. Ho, under the I think you are aware of the imperfections of our existing system. If we only introduce accountable officers without introducing new government staff, this is not the way to do it. Accountable officers and the civil service have different roles, and politically accountable staff have their own duties and responsibilities, and the job of the deputy permanent secretary is to support the secretary in coordination work between different bureaus. I'm not against setting up a new bureau. I'm talking about restructuring. Redeploying the staff means that we won't have a permanent secretary, and without a new permanent secretary, if we don't have a PS, it's against the usual practice of a bureau, and it would leave certain jobs vacant. The work divisions of different staff have been made very clear in the paper. And for option C, introducing a new team under Mr. Gregory So, the result is that Mr. So will still be the only accountable officer, and as such, the existing imperfections would still persist. The composition of the new bureau can still be reviewed in the future if necessary. If there's anything we can do, we will certainly come back to the Finance Committee. Mr. Ray Chen. Can the Undersecretary take care of the third permanent secretary? That's the practice in many other bureaus. Secretary. We hope to have a high-level collaboration, and if an Undersecretary can coordinate IT matters, that would be a better arrangement.
Next, Ms. Sid Ho, second round, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I hope Secretary will not take this opportunity to flex his muscle, so to speak, because as Mr. Jeffrey Lam's questions suggest, all the figures are available online, and I think Secretary could be patient with all members, just like he did with Mr. Jeffrey Lam. I hope you could be friendly to all members equally. Now, Chairman, I think my focus is on creation of jobs. This is what Hong Kong needs. And about the funding for R&D under ITC, a lot of funds approved are for good purposes, for biotechnology, for projects like research projects on helping the disabled read, which is welcomed by the SWD. Now, according to your website, it said that $8.8 billion have been dispersed, and at the end of 2013, the royalties received, or the license fees received, according to the Audit Commission's report, could far meet the objective of self-financing. $60 billion are allocated every year for the purpose of encouraging R&D. We won't expect 100% success, but in terms of anti-corruption or prevention of transfer of interest to cronies, the answer is that theirs is an elected government, and everything is transparent and open. Well, our government is not an elected one. About commercialization of R&D results, can you tell us how many percent at present make up the or how many percent is realized, and also how many local jobs can be created? Well, a secretary could say that the invention could be sold, but selling inventions is not as good as manufacturing the products locally, because we can create more jobs for the locals. Ms. Ho is right, because we need to encourage young people to try and to learn from failures, and that's why we are creating the environment for them to try. And pardon me for what I said just now. I didn't mean to really launch a personal attack. I just want to explain the views of the sector. I'm not suggesting, I wasn't suggesting that you are ignorant, and I didn't mean to launch any personal attack. In commercializing R&D results, there are different ways. For example, we could have collaboration by way of licensing and authorization. We could sell the inventions, of course. This is a rather important topic, Chairman. I hope Mr. Lam and Ms. Wong could explain the successful examples of our technology companies in the past. Well, we don't really have time, but since this is very important, I'll let you finish. You still have 5 minutes, Ms. Sitho. What we want is a paper from the administration. We have 5 minutes anyway. Give us some figures. Or if we just read the report of the CNSD in 2013, the figures are really alarming. Well, Secretary, we still have a week's time before our next meeting resumes, so please give colleagues a paper. Last member. Dr. Kwokaki, first round, 5 minutes. Chairman. Well, when we talk about innovation and technology, we could be in tears. Well, let's talk about Cyberport. It was supposed to be a place for innovation technology. In the end, it became a prominent example of government business collusion. It became a property development project. Now for the Innovation Technology Fund, well, as the audit report made clear, this is really worrying. We're talking about huge sums of money going to waste. Now the government is proposing to set up another bureau. And this is important. Just now, a member asked whether there would be objective indicators about what can be done, what can be achieved, what contribution could be made to Hong Kong, and it seems to be a blank. The Secretary seemed to be saying that as long as you believe in me, give me funding to set up this bureau and create posts. And what we're worried about is the spending of huge sums of money for the audit to compile another report on that. And some suggest that we could just keep our eyes shut and approve whatever the government puts in its paper. I really resent this argument, because we really can't, because it doesn't mean that we're really going against the sector. So tell us what indicators you have. And let's say in a year's time, what can we expect of this Bureau? What should be achieved? Because you should be accountable as well. Because if it fails, you might have to step down in order to be accountable, because you might have deceived the Finance Committee and members of the public. I think you've asked a question and he's already answered it, and you're repeating your question. Secretary. Yes, although this question has been repeated, I'd like to talk about the criticism of Dr. Kwokaki on Cyberport. This is unfair to a lot of outstanding enterprises now stationed in Cyberport. I'd like to have an opportunity to go on a visit with you to Cyberport to see what is going on, because it is really deflating for our young people at Cyberport. On indicators, our paper already sets out the scope of work. Every year we report to different panels on our work, and on indicators our objective is to provide a vibrant environment for collaboration between among the government, business, academics and the industrial sector, to have quality work. And I believe indicators would be formulated once the Bureau is set up. Well, he just continues to give us abstract answers when I ask about indicators. May I ask the member to refer to enclosure 9 of the paper, and please tell us. Now, he said that I try to be very deflating for our young people when I talk about Cyberport, but please be specific. Well, I want to be clear. Well, if you want to be clear, have you read the paper? Well, Secretary, please let him ask his question first. Well, about Article 23, that dealt a great blow to the young people. Well, time is up. Let's adjourn the meeting.